What's the one joke you can guarantee everyone laughs from? A sales manager was driving on his long commute home after a successful deal when he noticed a storm coming. The forecast hadn't said anything about it, but it seemed really intense. He also began noticing that his car was belching smoke, breaking down quickly as soon as he noticed the storm. He groaned and pulled over, looking around for some place to stay from inside his car. Rain began to drizzle. The man then noticed that a monastery, huge, built from some sort of plain gray stone, adorned with elaborate and elegant statues and pillars, was just across the street. He quickly got out of his car, rushed to the monastery and knocked on the door. Seconds later, it opened, being answered by a monk. "Welcome, brother. We have been expecting you." The man was taken aback by this. How was the monk expecting him? He shook off his unease and responded. "My car's broken down, and a storm is coming. Can I take shelter here?" Of course. Come in, we'll give you a room. One of our brothers was a mechanic before he joined us. He will repair your car." The man wasn't sure what to say. These people were being weird, but accommodating and nice. Who was he to refuse? He was led to his room and tried to go to sleep immediately. As he laid in bed trying to sleep, he heard an indescribable sound, but it was beautiful. He'd never heard anything like it, and no words could ever have adequately described it. He tried to ignore it, but it was burned into his memory as he drifted off to sleep. He woke up the next day and immediately went to the monk who had welcomed him in. "Hey, I heard this sound last night, do you know what it is? Or what made it?" The monk smiled and averted his gaze, looking to the ground for a moment before looking back to the man. "Well, I'd love to tell you, but you have to be a monk to know." The man was annoyed but ultimately thanked the monks for their hospitality and left in his repaired car. Half a decade later, the man had moved to a different part of the world for his job. He'd been promoted and was driving to his new home in his belonging stuffed car when it again began to belch smoke. He pulled over again and noticed a storm coming, feeling an intense sense of déjà vu. He got out of the car and looked around, seeing that same monastery, but why was it here? The man decided not to look a gift horse in the mouth and approached the door, knocking on it once again. The door opened. "Welcome back, brother. We've been expecting you." The same monk greeted. The man was obviously put off, but once again dismissed his unease. "Hey, my car broke down again. Can I take shelter like last time?" Of course. Come in." The man was taken to the same room, slept the same way, but this time woke up hearing that beautiful otherworldly sound. He got up and ran to another monk, hoping they would tell him. He asked, "I've heard this amazing sound, and I heard it the last time I was here. What is it?" The monk frowned and simply said, "I'd love to tell you, but you have to be a monk to know." The man is exasperated and storms out of the monastery, getting in his car and driving off immediately. That same sound haunted him the whole way to his new home. Decades later, the man had married and been widowed. He'd dedicated nearly all of his retired life, only about 20 years now, to finding out what that sound was, and all the while, that fantastic sound kept ringing in his ears. He decided finally to get to the bottom of this. He made an incision in the belt of his car and drove off. His car began to belch smoke, and as he approached what seemed like an empty plain, a storm began to roll in on the horizon. The man was excited to finally see about getting an answer after all these years. He got out of the car and rushed to the monastery, knocking on the door furiously. It opened. "Welcome back, sir. We, haven't been expecting you this time. You seem to be here so soon." "I know, and I'm here for answers." "What's that sound I've been hearing for all these decades? I must know." "Again, sir, I'd love to tell you, but you have to be a monk to know." The man sighed and scowled. "All right, what do I have to do to become a monk?" "Well, all you have to do is count every blade of grass in the land and every grain of sand on the beaches. Then you will be a monk." The man grimaces and nods. "I'll do it. Anything to figure out what that sound is." "Can you fix my car?" "Of course." Years passed as the man traveled the world, counting each and every blade of grass and grain of sand he came across, careful to be as correct as he could. After decades passed, he was elderly and old, but finally finished his quest and started on his path back home. As soon as he was able, he sabotaged his car and drove off, arriving at the monastery as he had several times before. He stormed up to the door and knocked on it again. The monk answered. "Welcome back. I've done it. I've counted every blade of grass and every grain of sand." "Then you are now a monk. Please, follow me." The man was confused. "Don't you need to know the number of each?" "Not at all. That you had the patience to go through that ordeal to become a monk is proof enough of your worthiness." The man accepts this explanation and accompanies the monk inside. The monk directs him to a spiral staircase that he'd never seen before, and the two embarked down it. Down, deeper and deeper into the bowels of the monastery they went, the monk lighting candles along the walls of the staircase as they went to light their way. It was cramped, and the dank smell of the air tried the man's patience, but they continued on for what felt like hours until they reached the bottom. They were met by a beautiful, ornate door of solid gold, adorned by rubies and diamonds. The monk turns to the man after a few seconds pass, and speaks. Behind this door is the source of the sound. He takes out a keyring from his robe, finds a golden key, and puts it into the lock, turning it ever so slowly and opening the door as slowly. The man's eyes widened in surprise as it was revealed that behind the door was another door. This one was far simpler, made of silver and only having a few simple designs engraved into it. The man frowns in confusion and turns to the monk. "I'm assuming that this door isn't the source of the sound?" The monk smiles and chuckles looking at the door. Patience, patience, he instructed, the answer you seek is behind this door. He pulled another key from the keyring, one of pure silver, and put it into the door, turning it slowly, listening for the click of the door unlocking before slowly opening it to reveal another door, one of rusted iron, crudely made. The monk took out an old rusty key and put it into the door, unlocking it, opening it to reveal yet another door. The man tried not to gag as he realized that it was made out of rotting meat. The monk nodded in acknowledgement of the man's disgust and took another key, crudely fashioned out of bone, and sank it into what little of the meat was left that hadn't rotted away yet. The door opened slowly to reveal an average-looking wooden door. The man turned to the monk, perturbed and still holding his nose. This is ridiculous. We've been going for hours to this source. How long away is it? Behind this door. The monk answered with a smile as he took out an average-looking key and put it into the door, opening it to reveal a door that seemed almost like it was from the future, made of metal with alien-looking script on its frame, and a panel for a handprint on it. The monk put his hand on the panel and it opened in a way unlike the man had ever seen. It seemed to unwind itself into its frame. As the two crossed through its frame, it restored its old shape. The man took his hand off of his nose, thankful for the relatively fresh air. The two walked through a dark empty corridor for what felt like hours in silence, and the man began to think on his journey. It was not a consistent one, but he knew he was old, and the adventure was almost done. His mind rushed with the different ideas of what he could do with his life when he finally figured out what that beautiful sound was, or at least its source. He eventually settled on staying with this monastery. He was a monk now. It was an intrinsic part of him. The two eventually approached a golden door identical to the one that they had first opened, and the monk turned to the man. The answer to the question you have been seeking for the past several decades lies behind this door. But I must warn you first. This will change everything for you. You will never see anything the same way again. Your perception of me, our brotherhood, the world, the universe and even of yourself will change irrevocably when this door is opened. You still have the chance to turn back. Are you sure that you want to see this? The man nodded. I have been searching for the answer for a large portion of my life. I am old and weary, but I know my purpose in life and the answer to every question I've ever had unanswered is behind this door. I must see it. Please, open the door. The monk solemnly nodded in response and took out a key of pure diamond, put into the keyhole, unlocked it slowly, and opened the door. And I'd love to tell you what's inside, but you have to be a monk to know. Watching my life go by. 10-year-old Emmy found herself caught in the midst of daily verbal arguments between her parents, Adam and Rebecca. Adam firmly believed that Rebecca was the person he was destined to spend the rest of his life with and couldn't fathom a world without her. However, Rebecca took the difficult decision to file for divorce, leaving Emmy to witness her departure from the family home with just an overnight bag. Days later, Adam explained to Emmy that Rebecca had moved on and didn't want to see either of them again. Adam took on the responsibility of supporting the family. He first established routines to help them adjust to this new chapter of their lives. They started meal prepping the same basic meals together, carefully packing them into black plastic containers with clear lids and plasticware. Adam was a gifted engineer, and he started a small architecture construction business. He soon realized he needed some extra help around the house. Emmy had to mature quickly, becoming the woman of the household. The police at first frequently visited, inquiring if Adam or Emmy had any information about Rebecca's whereabouts, and even searched the house a few times. A decade passed, and Rebecca's sister, Samantha, who had been a constant in their lives, developed a romantic relationship with Adam. She had helped raise Emmy and offered continuous support since Rebecca left. One morning, Adam's office called, urgently needing a photograph of a blueprint for a major client located in his home office in the basement. Emmy went down to the office and, while there, noticed faint tapping noises. Curious, Emmy started listening for the taps. She even started knocking on the walls and shelves. It sounded like it was behind the bookshelf. She started pulling books down and setting them aside. Finally, she tried to move a book that was glued to the shelf. She gave it a good yank and felt the shelf swing like a door toward her. Slowly opening it, Emmy was unexpectedly tackled by a pale creature with disheveled hair down to its legs and tattered clothing, wielding a plastic knife. The creature tried to stab Emmy in the eyes and throat. Emmy rolled over, reversing the position, and started grasping for objects on top of her father's desk. Emmy was able to grab a letter opener and stab the creature multiple times until it lay motionless. Blood started pooling along the floor. Emmy stood up and dropped the pointed opener. She stepped over the creature and opened the door further to discover a padded room filled with black meal prep containers, a small bed, a toilet, and a television behind a sheet of clear plexiglass that was a live stream of hidden cameras all around the house. A sticky note behind the glass wrote, "If you don't want to live with us, you can watch us live." Emmy exited the room to see the thing that attacked her. Emmy slowly began to recognize it and started crying profusely. "Mom. My cousin had intimacy with a 15-year-old and convinced her to blame me. My cousin and I are both 22. At the age of 18 my cousin was kicked out of school, and he started doing substances and sleeping with random girls. I went to college and we drifted. 2 months ago a girl messaged me, and we started talking. I didn't know who she was because she didn't use her picture as a profile picture. She said she knows me, but she didn't want to reveal her identity. Our conversation was normal, nothing more than friendly, just talking about random stuff. One day my family went on a trip to a place that I don't like, so I choose to stay home. My cousin came to my house and started yelling at me, and he hurt me. He told me to stay away from his girlfriend. I was so confused. I said, "What girlfriend?" And he showed me her account, and it was that girl. He told me to block her, or he'll do more next time I blocked her. 2 weeks later she messaged me from another account. She said she is sorry for what her boyfriend did to me, and she said her name is Rashad, the daughter of my neighbor. I immediately blocked her because that girl is 15. I realized that my cousin is dating our 15-year-old neighbor. I debated whether I should tell her father or not, but I remembered that my cousin is a dangerous guy. He's not just a guy who uses substances, he's also a member of a famous gang in my neighborhood. I decided to stay quiet. Everything was fine until 2 weeks ago I was with my friends and a car pulled in front of us. It was her father with 2 men in the car. He told me to get in. I was hesitant, but he said he'll get me in himself if I didn't oblige. I enter the car. They drive me to the desert away from home. When we arrived to the desert he asked me if I'm having intimacy with his daughter. I said no. I used to talk with her on Facebook but they didn't even let me finish and started hurting me. I passed out and woke up in the hospital. The doctor said I had a few broken bones, but I can walk. My brother told me that our neighbor is accusing me of sleeping with his daughter. My brother asked me if it was true, and I said, no. Later that day, one of my friends, Monir, who is close to my cousin, told me that the girl's father had a suspicion she's dating someone, and he kept pressuring her to tell him who. She told my cousin, and he told her to say my name. My friend said that he told me this out of respect and I can't tell anyone that he told me. He said he's too afraid of my cousin to confess this to her family. My brother told me her father is pressing charges against me for having a relationship with his daughter. I decided to speak with my family and I assured them that I didn't do the thing I was accused of, and my older brothers hired a lawyer for me. I showed the lawyer all of the messages between me and the girl. Strangely, nothing was deleted. My guess is that her father took away her phone before she could delete anything. He dismissed the charges before they reached the court. Later that day, I got a message from my cousin, who threatened me. He told me to take the blame, or he'd end me. I showed that to my lawyer, who contacted the police. My cousin got arrested. I sent the message to the girl's father, and I told him to check the messages between me and her. The next day, her father apologized to me and said he would pay for my lawyer and compensate me for all the damages he had caused. He said that it was so hard to take the boyfriend's name out of her mouth that when she said my name he was too angry to investigate. He said he took her phone away but never thought of checking the messages. As for my cousin, he's now facing charges of dating his girlfriend and for threatening me. My marriage is in 2 weeks but it's all going downhill. My fiancée Sarah and I's wedding is scheduled to take place in just 2 weeks and I just witnessed something that is making me feel like I'm making the biggest mistake in my life. Tonight Sarah and I were taking a rare opportunity to relax at home. Sarah was in the kitchen making dinner while I was out back working on one of my projects. Anyway, as you do when you're doing heavy labor, I get thirsty and come back to the house to get a drink where I see Sarah at the counter preparing dinner and talking on speakerphone. I recognize the voice instantly as my brother-in-law Marty. Now, this is where my brain gets totally twisted. Marty asks Sarah where her sister Evelyn is as he's been trying to get in contact with her and she's not answering texts, and I hear Sarah say to him, "She just left here. She should be home in a half hour or so." It should be noted that Evelyn is Marty's wife of 5 years. I have to admit that I didn't immediately register what she had just said, because I went into the kitchen and grabbed a glass and asked Sarah what was that all about? And she responded with Marty was looking for Evie. I see her texting and I ask her what are you doing? And she says I'm texting Evie that Marty was looking for her. Anyway, I pour myself a drink, sit down, have a sip, and then finally my brain starts to work. First off, I heard Sarah tell Marty that Evelyn was here. Evelyn was not here and the last time we saw her was yesterday when she came over to work on some last-minute wedding decoration stuff with Sarah. Secondly, why is she texting Evelyn and expecting a response when I distinctly heard Marty that Evelyn wasn't answering her texts? Lastly, why the hell would she tell Marty that Evelyn should be back in 30 minutes unless she either knows where she is, or she is, right now in front of me, texting her to tell her to get her butt home quickly? The only conclusion that I came up with is that Sarah is lying to Marty about the whereabouts of her sister, Marty's wife, and is probably warning Evie that Marty will expect her home in half an hour. I then spent probably the next 5 hours concocting various explanations for this behavior, some decent, some downright horrible, and playing them back in my head. I wanted, really badly, to ask Sarah about this, but at the same time if what I think is going on, then I doubted I'd get a straight answer. Which brings me to about an hour ago. I woke up around 1 a.m. to use the toilet and I couldn't resist the urge to check Sarah's phone. We both know each other's pins so this wasn't a difficult thing to do. I grabbed the phone, retreated to the bathroom and unlocked it. I saw Sarah's sister Evelyn has been having an affair for about 6 months with a coworker and Sarah has been helping Evelyn cover it up for almost that entire time. There are literally hundreds of texts between them discussing it, discussing the coworker, discussing intimate stuff, really embarrassing things about my brother-in-law, just stuff that makes my stomach churn, and here is my soon-to-be wife going along with all of it without batting an eye. I took some screenshots of the entire thread, put the phone back where I found it. Edit, the wedding is off. I decided to take the day off work and go to Marty's house to let him know. I got to Marty's house a little after 10 a.m. He had just put his daughter down for a nap and we had a long, frankly brutal talk, in the kitchen. Basically, he suspected this for a couple of months now, but Evelyn has been very good at covering her tracks, obviously with the assistance of Sarah and a couple of their mutual friends. I unfortunately do not have all 6 months of text messages, just a couple of dozen screenshots I sent to myself from Sarah's phone, but I gave him what I have and offered to help him however I could. I am a field analyst in the SIU department of a mid-sized insurer specializing in workers' compensation fraud, so I know a few things and a few people. Anyway, I am now working from my laptop in my almost brother-in-law's kitchen trying to salvage whatever I can. I'm going to have to talk to Sarah this evening and get the word out as fast as I can to my friends and family now that I know I won't screw Marty over.